It's a brand new year, which means it's a brand new chance to get the latest movie news here on The Loop Show. Kwaku on Movies is back. And we're talking about the new movie, The Interview. I'm sure you guys have heard about all the controversy surrounding this movie. We've definitely talked about it on the show. Myself and Kwaku, we've both watched the movie. And Kwaku, I must say, I am pleasantly surprised about this movie.
Yeah, it was actually really good, wasn't it?
It was really good.
Yeah, and I mean, not to spoil things early and give our reviews away, but I mean, this was surprisingly on point this time round.
It definitely was. Okay, so for those that haven't seen it yet, tell us a little bit about the plot summary.
Sure. So it focuses on a kind of Letterman-style chat show host, Dave Skylark, played by James Franco, who is given a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, really, to, let's say, escalate and amplify his show to another level when he's given the opportunity to interview his number one fan, Kim Jong-un, the Korean dictator. Now, hijinks ensue. I'm trying to avoid any spoilers, but as you probably know, it involves some sort of assassination attempt after he and his producer, played by Seth Rogen, are recruited by the CIA.
Hello, who this?
This is the Secretary of Communication for North Korea. Our Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un is interested in doing an interview with Dave Skylark.
Oh my God.
We will meet 50 kilometers west of Dangdong, northeastern China.
Did you just say China? And did you just say dong?
3 weeks from tonight, I will be traveling to Pyongyang, North Korea, to interview President Kim Jong-un.
Mr. Rappaport, I'm Agent Lacey with Central Intelligence. You two are going to be in a room alone with Kim, and the CIA would love it if you could take him out. Take him out.
For coffee? Dinner. For kimchi?
No, take him out.
You want us to kill the leader of North Korea?
Yes.
Spent a lot of time with Kim, and I think he's not a bad guy.
You cannot pull out of this.
I'm pulling out.
You're way too deep to pull out. I'm pulling out. No, you're not. You're leaving it in.
I've been pulling out for years, son.
It does keep you guessing very, very close to the end to see whether Dave Skylark will actually go through with the CIA's wishes or whether he'll kind of follow his heart and what will happen. Will Kim Jong-un betray Dave Skylark? You know, there's so many twists and turns because you just see this very complex but beautiful friendship developing between the interviewer and his subject.
Yeah, and I even would add to that. I mean, the complexity, and I know we'll come to this later, of Kim's character was actually really interesting. It was actually, funnily enough, the Korean characters had more depth than the American characters, who were the main characters. So you had played by Diana Bang, who played Suk, who was kind of she was the communications, I was going to say manager, but it wasn't really corporate, communications minister, who was in charge of all the PR and kind of subversive messages of the Korean government. She was really complex. She, seemed to believe entirely in Kim's program and his vision for the future. But ultimately, she didn't quite see it that way. Kim himself, he seemed to flip-flop between being a really nice guy who was into American stuff, ironically, to being just a crazy guy who wanted to press the big red button and blow up the world. So it was really interesting seeing how these things played off, and Skylark being an idiot, seeing how he figures this out ultimately.
When you talk about Kim's influences of America, it was so fantastic to see them bonding over Katy Perry's Fireworks song. You couldn't make it up at all. That was one of my favourite moments of the whole movie there. It was so beautiful.
Sound system in here?
Oh, no. Don't touch.
Katy Perry?
I've never heard this before in my life.
I love Katy Perry.
Really?
As you shoot across the sky.
Now tell us a little bit about some of the actors that starred in the movie. There was also some cameos as well by some music artists, which were quite hilarious.
Well, I mean, the first cameo we got right off the bat with Eminem and an interview with Skylark, that was brilliant because it set the tone for the whole movie.
I don't necessarily rap about the things that I hate. It's more about the things that I fear.
I get you.
It's like if I say something about women or whatever, I think a lot of that is more or less me just dealing with issues with, old issues with my mom or whatever.
With your mother?
Yeah, or you know, when I say things about gay people, or people think that my lyrics are homophobic, you know, it's because I'm gay. When I rap about violence, or you know, sound like I'm promoting violence, I think that you know, it's more or less because you know, it's kind of about me just you know confronting it.
What did he just say?
Wow.
Wait, can we play that?
She said he was gay.
So let's talk about the controversy, because it did look at one stage that no one would see the movie. They'd probably burn it and kind of bury it forever and ever and ever. Let's talk about that, because I have my own thoughts about the movie, of course, now seen it. And my main question is, why did they use North Korea and feature it in the movie? Why could they not create a fictional dictatorship and a dictator country? Why do they have to be so specific in, you know, mentioning North Korea and mentioning their leader, and not create something fictional? I just couldn't really understand that.
I mean, it's a very, very good question, because why do you want to incur the wrath of Kim? I mean, you may think he's a far off guy or whatever. He's still a head of state. He still has power. I mean, there's no need to do that necessarily. But I think ultimately they wanted that authenticity and they wanted that shock factor. I think that's where it comes down to. And when it's an actual, real country and not, you know, made up, you know, one that we've had. You know, pretty much every movie in the 80s was an action movie set in Afghanistan or something with Stan at the end, or bad, something like that, to depict a generic Islamic country. They were often ridiculed for that. They wanted to go in a bit more direct. I imagine that's the reason, and they probably regret that now.
Why at the end was it so graphic? You know, there was lots of killings, lots of explosions, a slow motion kind of scene as well, where, you know, of course one of the characters dies, and it's just like, why was it so graphic? I'm not a prude, I'm not prissy or anything like that, but I just couldn't help but think, why did they, you know, kill off certain people in such extreme ways?
Yeah, it's very similar to Django, in that Django was, you know, a really kind of deep and interesting movie with kind of a lot of emotive sequences happening in it. And then it just went crazy basically. At the end, it's just a bloodbath. This is very similar, but in a more goofy way. The movie's quite goofy. It's making fun of itself. It's laughing along. To an extent, it felt more inevitable in this that it was going to end that way. It would have been really interesting if they hadn't gone down that road, though. If it had been a little bit less of, not a happy ending, but such a neat ending. If they'd maybe left things undone and it left it open to the audience, because it's surprisingly thought-provoking, a movie. It makes you think a lot about the perceptions that Western media puts on us, what we actually see, and also what's the view of dictatorships. I mean, someone made an interesting point to me. The movie suggests that Kim is deceiving his people, but how do we not know our own leaders aren't doing similar? Now, this is very, you know, put tinfoil hat on, it's a conspiracy theorist thing, but, you know, it's interesting and thought-provoking in that sense. And unfortunately, they kind of just went a bit wacky at the end, and like you said, everything's blowing up and it wraps up very neatly. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that. I'm not sure exactly why they chose to do it, but at the same time, it's a fun movie. So I think you have to take it on that side of things, and that's a fun ending.
It definitely is a fun movie. I laughed out loud quite a few times. That's why I'm just completely gushing about it. But, you know, give us your overall rundown and how you would rate it out of 5.
Yeah, I mean, I really thought this was a fantastic movie. I think I would have to recommend it for everyone. I know a lot of people don't like James Franco, and I was surprised by how many people didn't like James Franco, just speaking to people that I know. But I would give this a solid 4 out of 5. It's just funny, it's fun, it's intelligent, it's stupid at the same time. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's also grounded by some really great performances all round. And you do feel engaged in the movie. I never felt bored or anything like that. Even when I knew where it was going, you still felt, this is amazing. So 4 out of 5, really entertaining satire, really entertaining comedy. Gets my full recommendation.